everyone, my name is Esty Elias, co-host of Keeping Up With The Chaldeans. We have my co-host Anthony Toma today. We also have Nada Kinaya, who works with Beaumont Health as a nurse practitioner. So we'd love to hear, first of all, how did you hear about the show and who wanted you to get on?
So I'm not going to take the credit. My son is 18 years old, and he is a very he watches your show all the time, and he was like, "Mom, go on their cool show. They're cool. You have to go on their show." So that's why I'm here, actually.
Anthony, 18-year-olds think we're cool.
Hey, that's cool.
That's amazing. So we wanted to just bring you on and share your story about not only are you a nurse practitioner, but you also are in the palliative care field. So just want to share your story about what inspired you to get into the health field.
I had a bachelor's in finance, so I first started with business administration, and I felt like I needed more, and I needed to do more to help people, help our community. So I started with nursing school, and I worked as a nurse for almost 10 years at St. John, and it just inspired me to get more education, of course. I became a nurse practitioner, and I've been working with Troy Beaumont for almost 7 years now with the palliative care team. I just wanted to do something more to help people. I work with our community a lot, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something important. So that's what inspired me, is helping people.
That's amazing.
What could be more important than helping somebody through the process of a serious disease?
It's a privilege to me. My job, I really do truly love my job. I know it sounds weird because I deal with a lot of end of life.
True.
But it's a privilege when I get invited to someone's bedside with at the worst time of their life, and they're telling me about their story. They're telling me about, like, back home, what happened, how they came here. It's a privilege. I do think it's an honor to be with, especially taking care of our patients.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. This takes a special person. We appreciate you coming on and sharing this, beautiful program with our viewers. Why don't you go into a little bit more about the program and how it works and what it offers and how it will actually help people make these very difficult decisions.
Yeah. So there's a lot of programs in the hospital that most people don't know about that exist. So, for example, palliative care. Palliative care is a service in the hospital, and we have outpatient services as well. So any person that has chronic disease can qualify for palliative care. So we usually get asked we get asked to see patients. We don't just come in. You have to have a consult from the physician. So we usually come in with patients with chronic disease like heart disease, lung disease, cancer, dementia, any kind of chronic disease. So when we meet with the patient and the family, if they're able to, so we try to figure out, based on what's happening with the patient medically, we help with whatever their goals are. We give them options. We help with, we involve their spiritual care. We involve social work for emotional support. We involve the family a lot too. We don't view the patient just as a disease. We explain what's happening with them medically and base our recommendation on what patients' goals are, because not everybody's the same. We offer help with advanced directives too. We help with filling the advanced directives also. And we also help with having these tough discussions such as code status, prognosis, things like that. We help with those discussions as well.
How's that? How do you do that? Like, how do you comfort somebody into being able to talk about something like that and discussing kind of the inevitable at this point?
So we're trained really, like, we get trained for having these tough discussions. We do a lot, like we meet the patient where they're at. So you have to be basically able to read the room to understand what the patient's understanding is, where if they're ready to have those discussions actually as well. We involve, like, if it's a cancer patient, we work with oncology team. We go in as a team as well and talk about what's going on and the prognosis. And we deliver it in a, you can't just say, oh, you're dying, or something's happening, or you have cancer. There's ways to help the patient understand what's happening. And it helps with our Chaldean patients, it helps that I speak the language.
Because it's located in Troy?
Yeah.
And
actually, almost all hospitals do have a a palliative care program. They have to have that. But most people don't know about it, or sometimes people associate it with hospice. So there's like a taboo.
Of course. Yeah. It's like you're almost giving up and throwing your hands up and leaving it. Obviously, we're always leaving our lives in God's hands.
Of course.
But, that this is something that you talked about, that beforehand, it was not just for people that are in a dire straits.
No, it's any chronic disease. Even in the beginning of, let's say for congestive heart failure, in the beginning of the disease process, we can help walk you through the process, prepare you for certain things. I mean, just talking about it doesn't mean, you're wishing.
Right.
Yeah, so we prepare you and we prepare your family. So in that, like, you're not surprised when you're in stage 4. So that it's just walking you through the process and advocating for you.
What are some of the decisions that someone has to make, or someone else has to make on behalf of someone, and when does that?
So the main things families make decisions about that they have a hard time, from what I experience, especially with our culture, is end of life. CPR, for example, being on the ventilator, it's really hard decision to make, to take them off the ventilator. Sometimes we don't understand what we're signing up for, or like feeding tubes. Feeding tubes are helpful in certain situations, but not, like, for example, dementia patients. So there's other things we should talk about and discuss. Just because we go to a hospital and we get offered things, it doesn't mean it's going to be beneficial for us.
Right.
So it depends on the situation. Even a ventilator in certain situations is helpful, in certain situations it might not be. So having these discussions in advance is important. Having them, actually, preferably to have these discussions, especially advanced directive, with your physician, your primary care doctor, not waiting till you're in an acute situation and you're trying to figure out what to do. And of course, like, if I'm in an acute situation, I might not make the right decision.
Right.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about this advanced directive?
Sure.
I know we were kind of discussing it prior.
So advanced directive is a document. It's a legal document. It says what your medical wishes are in case of an emergency. It identifies also, like, someone that would speak for you in case of an emergency. We don't use it unless you're not able to speak for yourself. So it will talk about your wishes in case of, your medical wishes. If, for example, if you're not able to speak for yourself, and what you would want in case, do you want CPR? Do you want a ventilator? Do you want feeding tube? You can be as specific as you want. The main one is identifying someone to speak for you, someone that would honor your wishes, because this is all about you. All the hospitals do have advanced directive help as well, and these are free. You can actually go to a lawyer and get them, but these are free in the hospital, and they have people that can help you. And you need 2 people to witness it that are non-family members or medical staff, and it becomes a legal document. And it goes into your record in the hospital. Your physician's office should have a copy as well, and you should keep the original copy, of course. And your advocate should agree. They have to agree, actually, to be your advocate and to be able to make those decisions in case of an emergency. And you should give a copy to your healthcare advocate as well, and your family, just so they know who's going to be speaking for you.
So when you say choose someone, is this usually a family member you're choosing?
You can choose anyone who you want. Usually it's a family member.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can choose a friend. We have a lot of family members.
Yeah,
so
we're lucky. We're blessed.
Yeah. So some situations, some patients that I have, they have no family members, no children. They would choose a neighbor, a pastor. So I've seen even a priest be a advocate.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You have such an important role.
Oh, thank you.
It really is. I mean, in our situation, with my mom's situation, the doctor kind of walked us through, and my sister, God bless her, she's just such a rock at the time, where she kind of handled everything, and she made sure that all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. It was she was a big help there, and so we kind of compared this to a trust. Yes. Or a
I would call it like a living will.
A living will, okay.
Or That's what I would call it, a living will.
So in a living will, these questions are asked, right?
Yes.
So what's the difference? Like what would take precedence, or do they work together?
They're both the same. I think it's a living will and advanced care planning is the same. It's when you're alive, what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So when we plan, like when we have our trust or our will, it's after we pass away.
Mm-hmm.
This one is when we're alive, what we want.
Oh, okay.
So we talk about where we want to be buried, for example. I know it's kind of
okay. It's part of life.
We talk about where we want our, everything else that when we pass away, but we don't talk about what we want in case of something happens.
Yeah.
I have an advanced directive, not because I have a chronic disease. It's because if God forbid I get into a car accident, I want him to know who's going to be my advocate.
Wow.
For example, my husband is not comfortable with being my advocate.
Yeah.
He's not comfortable with my decisions. So my son is my advocate.
Your son sounds like a big fan
Yes.
of you. I love it.
Oh, thank you. So it's you have to also, it's like almost a gift to your family to give them this guide to have.
Yeah.
It's hard to make these decisions, especially if it's for your parents or anything like that. Like you said, your sister,
Yeah.
So it's tough. So at least it will be your family's guide, or it would be my guide for my son. He's not making my decisions.
For sure. And you guys have discussed it and laid it all out.
Mm-hmm.
It's so it's not just for, and just so it's clear to the audience, it's not just for someone with a chronic disease.
Absolutely.
It's for anyone
Yes.
18 and up. And
18 and up. I mean, COVID in the last 2 years was a great example of how things can change in a minute. So I think it's important to have a guide to the family. I really I'm a big advocate of this.
Yeah.
Advanced care planning.
That's amazing. What was I going to ask you? So it's basically like an insurance. Like if something happens, this is what we want done.
Yeah, it's your guidance and what living well means to you, what you want in case something were to happen. It's your guidance. I always want to be in control of what happens to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically also my guidance.
That's amazing. I was going to ask you, does being in this industry, change your appreciation for life and health?
Absolutely. I think it makes you appreciate death. I know we don't talk about death in our culture, but it's a great teacher. It's a great example of how, life is too short. You never know. We don't have any control of what God wants. Mm-hmm. We're humans. We try to control or prevent things, but it's always in his hand, and life is too short. So appreciating life and living life to the fullest and appreciating family. True. That's important. And telling them how much you love them, talking to your family, and other things don't matter, honestly.
So true. I'm sure you learn that every day at work. It's a reminder.
Most of my patients, the worst thing is to sit and have regrets at end of life. So that's the saddest part of when you talk to patients and they have regrets. And it's mostly not spending time with family or not telling their loved one they love them, or they work too much, or they did,
These are great reminders for our community.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Is that the most common, is just wishing they spent more time with family or were closer? Because I know it's sadly common in our community for people to not talk or be in fights for decades.
Yes.
Does that come up a lot?
Yes, we've seen that too, and I think it doesn't. Once someone is sick, what I love about our community, we do fight, we're loud, and but what I see, what makes me happy is to see how many people show up for you.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. They'll come and visit you, they'll be there for you, and it still brings people. I know disease does bring people together. I think sometimes I know it's worst situation, but you see them all together. They forget whatever happened in the past. So I see that, and I see the opposite too. But I really love how our community supports each other, because we see patients that no one visits. So
it's so sad. No, I think our community is incredible. Even my mom was in the hospital. Mm-hmm. Someone that she worked with at a liquor store 30 years prior came and visited her, and I'm just our community is I'll always remember that because it was so random, you know. No, our community is incredible, and I do feel so bad when people don't
Yeah.
have, and
Mhm.
they're lucky to see your smiling
Aw,
face.
thanks.
Yeah.
They get happy when I speak Surrogate to them,
Aw.
so they do get happy. So I feel bad. Some of them are like elderly and they don't understand the language, and it's scary to be in a hospital with all the noises and everybody coming in and poking and prodding and you don't understand. It's very lonely and scary. So, and especially the last with the limitations with
Oh,
COVID
yeah.
and
Oh,
no
that was-
visitation, that
that
was
was hell.
terrible.
Horrible.
It was terrible also to do our job as well.
Yeah. I can
So for others out there that want to kind of follow in your footsteps and share in the joy that you share when you go home, what was your path to getting to this point? Is there, you have a medical background?
So I went to nursing school. So
Okay.
for a nurse practitioner, you have to be a nurse first, have a
Okay.
bachelor's in nursing, and then I got my master's in nursing. I can help if you guys if they want. I'm on Beaumont's website too. If you need, my email is nadakinaya2@beaumont.org. You can
Okay.
email me. I'll help with mentoring. I'm also part of the Chaldean Health Association,
Okay.
Chaldean CAP,
Cap.
Associate Professionals.
Chaldean, yeah.
So we're a group of health professionals that we help also mentor. We have events as well. So if that's another great source for mentoring, not just me. There's a lot of Chaldean health professionals.
Chaldean Health Professionals. Okay.
So that's a helpful website too. And if anyone needs help, I take students. We also mentors. Like we also do take residents as well. So
Mhm.
they spend about a month with us. So these conversations are hard to have. So
Mhm.
we help with those too.
Okay. And so they need to be a nurse first?
Yes, for a master's in nursing. But
Okay.
there's PAs. PAs usually you don't have to have a nursing background. You can
Mm-hmm.
have a business background and go to PA school. So it's also a master's, and it's kind of like the same job we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And so you mentioned your son twice, but you never mentioned his name.
My son is Jacob.
Okay. He came here to support you,
yeah.
and
He's behind the scenes right
He's
now.
behind the scenes.
That's so
We
sweet.
can see him.
So what was I going to ask you? Just being in the health field, I'm sure, and also seeing people kind of end of life, does that also change your perspective on your health and your daily choices?
Yes, it makes me. So I try to make sure that we're take care of our health, especially like even maintaining like screening for our
Smart.
community is so scared of screening.
I know.
Like colonoscopy.
Me included.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even colonoscopy or breast exam, like for especially breast cancer
Yeah.
in our community is a lot. Colon cancer, I see a
Same
lot with
thing.
our
So sad.
community.
Mhm.
So all these things we can help catch them in advance if we do some of the screenings is recommended. So I think screening is important. I think eating healthy is important. A lot of our food is healthy, but some of it is
It's
not.
the amount.
Yeah, the amount. So, and just physical health is important too. And following up with doctors, at least like going once a year for exam, for a yearly checkup. So that's important too.
Yeah. What do you see most in our community as like the chronic illnesses?
We see a lot of COPD. I see a lot of lung cancer, colon cancer as well. We see CHF. Diabetes is a big thing in our community.
What's COPD?
Chronic pulmonary.
That's okay. Heart.
Yeah, it's a lung disease.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
So it's common in our
Yeah.
community.
For smoking
Apparently
too.
there's sheep.
Lung.
Sorry. Your lungs stopped when you were
Yeah,
saying
no.
it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Okay, so lung issues.
Yes.
Diabetes, I know.
Mhm.
Colon cancer seems to be big. Sadly,
Yeah.
I've known a few people
Mhm.
young, like 30s,
Yeah.
in our community
Mhm.
had it. And then heart.
And and the colon cancer. When I talk to some of the oncologists, it's probably related to a lot of it's related to our diet and stuff too.
Is
So,
it?
and I don't know if it's related to coming from back home and exposure to any chemicals through the
interesting.
war and stuff too. So we've had these discussions
Yeah.
a lot too with the oncologist.
So you recommend people get like women get mammograms and people get colonoscopies. What else can they? I'm sure you're not a fan of smoking.
No, of course, yeah. My director is a pulmonologist, so he tells everybody about not smoking, and he's a big advocate on not
No
smoking.
hookah, no vaping.
Hookah especially, yes.
Why especially hookah?
It's actually it's worse on the lungs than smoking because there's no filtration or anything like that, and it's directly you're smoking about 100 cigarettes, I think, for each
Oh,
puff.
Jesus.
I saw that because I'm a fan of hookah. I don't know if I want to believe it.
The charcoal is tar,
Yeah.
that's going into your lungs too. So there is studies.
That's
I think
scary.
Michigan State did,
That's true.
or U of M did studies about hookah. I think.
Okay, let's create a healthier hookah then.
I mean, you're straight up burning
Yes,
3 coals, and
yeah.
you're burning them right into your lungs,
I know.
going through a little bit of
Yes.
water.
So
and
I don't
through
do
a
it
tube.
often, but I'm not gonna say I never do. So those are like the 4 or 5 top things that you see, like people have like the most chronic issues with. Okay. So I'll have one last or 2 last questions for you.
Sure.
What would you say is the best part of your job and the most challenging part of your job?
So the best part of my job is when I've had such amazing stories from. I'm just going to talk about our Chaldean patients because it's a Chaldean show. I've had the privilege to meet some of the most amazing Chaldean people that had such great stories, such struggles from coming from back home and dealing with all the things that they've dealt with. I've learned a lot from them. The worst part of my job is we have the taboo topic in our culture is talking about end of life, and it's really hard sometimes to talk about it with our people. So that's the worst part about it.
Just the emotions that you get from
emotions,
it. No, it is really hard. We talked on one of our last episodes about how like it should be celebrated, and we want to like kind of change that direction of like death should be more celebrated, you know, about that person's life and what they were able to do, and just like more gratitude, perspective.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure in the moment it's always like a freak out.
Or we sometimes try to limit in our culture, sometimes we try to limit our people from knowing what's happening and thinking like we're protecting them, especially when we hide the prognosis. It's very frustrating part of my job when
that happens a lot.
That happens a lot. Like they don't tell people.
They don't tell
They don't tell the person.
Yeah.
too.
Like how can you treat ethically someone with chemo and they don't know they have cancer?
How is that legal?
Yeah.
I've seen that sometimes.
It's a Chaldean thing.
It's a Chaldean thing. And I struggle a lot with our people with that, and I refuse to do that. So you
don't think there's a benefit of someone like the ignorance is bliss type of thing?
No, I think it's taking away someone's autonomy. So they should be able to make their own decisions. They should know what's going on. And even if it's that, we feel like sometimes I get a lot of families saying that, oh, she's going to give up and die. I'm like, no, it's the disease that's going to kill the patient. Yeah. Maybe she wants to reconcile with someone. Maybe she wants her last rites. Yeah. Maybe she wants to confess. Yeah. I'm like, you can't take that away from her.
Maybe she wants to say something to someone that she's been waiting for this moment to do. So before you go down that road and ask that final question, do you want to speak to the people that don't speak English and kind of say something in Surat just to kind of give a summary of what we just talked about and what they should look for?
So أنا شمي ندى إيوان nurse practitioner palliative care. لتن شمة palliative care بقاود سورة. So إلى service بقاود مستشفى كودخ كمساعدوخ أي مريض كاويل أمراض مزمنة. So كأنه خلقوا قاود ميلا أهداف تياخو محكو موخو بأهداف تياخو محكو ما كأنه خلقوا ما كعزوت ببيت همينا. إيثن من دان همينا كأنه خلقوا مالوت لا بأوراق دي لا مهمة خواتد مثلا قروخ لا advanced directive. إلى وراقة كاميرا معك مني محكي من بتاع وكيل دياخو in case of emergency كنت كاو خمن دي emergency. So وكيل دياخو بدامر همينا تاو شو مديه وكيل كي بتاع بعائلة لو تاو همين صديق لو تاو أي مني كيبوتو أختو كيبوتو تاو كيدي أخو أثوراق لك أي زخلة إلا كنت ليه بخد محكوتو أختو تعالى توي also بدمر يباخد دمرتو مع كيبوتو مثلا لهد لعوث كنت كيب يعني كنت حامل لبة مع كيبوتو دارو المكاين نقدن من داني كيبوتو نبوبد إخالة كل أن من داني يباخد كثوتو لابقاود أي وراقة شما advanced directive إيثن ويب سايت بقاود بومونت كل مستشفيات إتا إلى ويب سايت إيثن أوراق بعربي همينا كيبوتو لا إيثن 8 لغات بس إيثن أغلب عربي همينا وإيثن رقم همينا يبقى مساعدين له خو محكمة خو بدمري له خو دخمالاتو لا أي كله إلى ببلاش مستشفى همينا كمان على ببلاش وإباخو همينا دكاتر دي ياخد تمريض محكمة خو دمري له خو مال على أماخو بس sometimes يعني كم ترجي له خو لا أول خو أي سؤال يباخو مخبرته إنه مستشفى أنا يبدعين إنه خو أنا بس كبخل المستشفى other than that كنت كاوتو براي المستشفى إيثن راقم دم خبرته on beaumont.org.
Thank you.
Amazing. I love
Thanks for
that.
sharing
It's
that.
so beautiful. You want to ask the question?
Okay, so when we close out every episode, we ask, what does it mean to you to be Chaldean?
Everything.
Everything.
It's my pride. It's my family. It's my history. I'm very proud of our history, and I'm proud of what we accomplished here, even here, and what we've accomplished back home. It's my pride.
Yeah, good. Great answer.
Well, we know
thanks
who
for
to
joining
call
us. Yeah.
when we're in these situations. I'm already like, wow, I'm so glad I know you because I'm going to request you if anything happens. So
Anytime, as long as the family's not crazy.
Yeah. Well, maybe you won't want
Not
mine.
too crazy, too crazy.
Well,
Don't forget
so
we're
much.
Chaldean.
Thank you, Nada.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you,
having
everyone.
me. Thank you.